Welcome to Choral Counting. Let me explain what choral counting is. So choral counting is where we count, and we count in school. Often we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but choral counting is going further than that and looking at the patterns, and choral meaning that we count together with our class. This is a great book that I've gleaned a lot of information from, and I've been practicing using this in my classroom. So as we know, counting is a very important component of math, especially in primary school. We practice counting all the time, particularly in the lower end of school, probably less so in the upper end of junior school. But it's this what we're doing, this choral counting. It's an extension of what we've always done. We're extending children's number knowledge, their understanding of that number system, reinforcing number sense, and also helping them understand place value, which we know is really important. I love that you can extend their mathematical thinking and reasoning with this. So we think about the counting sequence, we're coordinating how we think about how we say the number word. What does that number word look like when we write it down? Thinking about the relative size of numbers, quantity, place value, skip counting patterns, features of numbers. There's so much packed into choral counting, and it's something you can do in a few minutes at the beginning of a math lesson. It's not a massive new addition, but it's something small that can make a big difference. It's really important that these few things are included. So make sure that you publicly count and record as you go. So as the kids count, they don't just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They count with you and you write as you go. So it's actually quite a slow process, but you don't do a huge range of counting. You just need to think about what you want to count in. Excuse me. Whether you want to set out your counting vertically or horizontally. And we need to support the students to count together. Pause. Talk with the students about how they worked out what was next. I'll give you a couple of examples in a moment. Count for long enough that children can see patterns, regularities, repetitions, things that are going on, and help facilitate that conversation. Really dig deep on those mathematical ideas and press students to explain and justify their ideas. And it's really, really great mathematical language that can come out of this. So I use this as a warm-up for my maths lessons. I spend a lot of time with children getting them to look for patterns, and some children who may not be so strong in maths actually are strong in looking for patterns. And maybe set a challenge question. So the one we did yesterday perhaps had odd and even numbers repeating. Do you think that will be the same today? So how does choral counting? Well, you'd start counting forwards or backwards in ones from any number that they're ready to do. You can skip count patterns, you can count in decimals, you can count in fractions, you can count in negative numbers. And often things like counting in decimals isn't something we ever do, but it's really important that children understand the sequence. And like you can count in 0.2s or 0.3s. So let's have a look. So as I said, count slowly, write as the students count, and then you can choose to record vertically or horizontally. Look for patterns, and they can be in any direction. So it could be up, down, side to side. It could be patterns in the ones, patterns in the tens, patterns in the hundreds. Think about odd and even patterns in the digits as well, and get them to explain mathematically what they see. So they might say, "Oh, all the numbers in the in the tens are a 5." So let's do some examples. So let's count back in ones, and we're going to lay out horizontally starting on 50. So we'd go 50, 49, 48, and you do it at this sort of speed. 47, 46, 45. So let's rub that one out. Then you might put 45 under here. 45, 44, 43, 42, 41, 40. I'm not sure why I've got a pen that looks like this, but hey, 41, 42, oh, sorry, counting backwards, 39, 38, 37, 36, 35, 34, 33, 32, 31. That's probably enough to start looking for patterns. You might want to count on a bit further, but that would be enough to get you some patterns. So you can look down, you can look across, you can see what numbers repeat, what numbers stay the same. So this one, we could count in ones. We're going to go vertically. So we'd go 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109. You might put 110 up here, 111. You see how by putting the 110 up there, you can see that we're starting to line it up in a way that students can start to see patterns. 118, 119. I probably would do another 2 columns like that before I actually ask them to tell me what's going on. We could use it for skip counting, and you don't have to just start on 2. I've been really interested in how my students, when I've thrown in bigger numbers, have really struggled, particularly going across the tens barrier. 206, 208, 210, 200 as well. You can see you just need to pre-plan where you're going to put the numbers so that you get this, so it sets up so that we've got the tens and the ones lining up to give us those patterns that we're looking for. And the children would count with you as they're doing this. 224, 226, 228, 230, 232, 234, 236, 238, and you can continue that, but you can start to see that the patterns. So we could look at what's happening in the hundreds, what's happening in the tens, what's happening in the ones, what's happening if we go across, what happens if we go down, what happens if we go across diagonally. So if you actually look, let me find the highlighter. We look here, in the ones, 2, 4, 6. What do you predict will be here? Let's go to the next one. So we can skip counting in 5s, we can lay it out vertically, so we could go 200, 195, 190, 185, 180, 175, 170, 165, 160, 155, and then we might decide we want to put 150 up here. 145, 140. So you can then start to look with the children. Okay, so we've got alternate numbers are in the tens. So this number's in the tens, this is 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 in the tens. We could talk about odd and even numbers there too. Skip counting in 19s. This is fascinating. So start on 200. Add 19. Add another 19. Now have a conversation with your children. How did you do it? And some will say they added 20 and took away 1. Some will count on 19. It'll be really interesting to see what sorts of conversations come out when you ask them to skip count in something like 19s, where you're looking for different strategies going on. So that one's a really good one for conversation. You could do it with 9s as well. Count back in 0.1s. So start on 4, 3.9. How often do we do this with our older kids? Do they understand this pattern? 3.6, 3.5, etc. So you do that, and then you could start your new line. I probably would do 3 here, and then 2.9, 2.8. You know, they may see the pattern that looks like 39, 38, 37, and then you can discuss about the difference being that now we're working in ones and tenths. So counting on in 0.4s. So we could start on 0, 0, 0.4, 0.8, 1.2, 1.6, 2, 2 point. I might put 2 up there actually. Let's go 2, 2.4, 2.8, 3.2, 3.6, 4. You see how, by the way, laying it out like that, you're setting opportunities up to have discussions about the patterns. Next one. So count back in fifths. So you could go 6, 6 and 1/5, 6 and 2/5, 6 and 3/5, 6 and 4/5, 7, 7 and 1/5, 7 and 2/5, and you can continue the pattern like that. And just think ahead about where you're going to just make the changes in your lines. So pick what your students need to practice, what the curriculum requires them to know. because there are loads and loads of opportunities to develop that number understanding, and choral counting is a great way to build that understanding.